Hello, it's me, Jess. Welcome to my channel. I'm here with another channeled message. This is a specific message. It might resonate with you, it might not. All right, so I keep hearing it takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. It takes two to tango. I feel like this is a phrase that has been misused in a third-party situation by someone. It masquerades as introspection, but it is actually just a deflection tactic. And I feel like that is what Spirit is wanting me to go into. Now, I don't know if you're the person doing this, and it's actually, like I said, it masquerades as introspection, but it actually stunts out the introspective work that you are able to do. And everything here is like actually at a gridlock, and it's because we have to get around this particular thing. Or for others of you, I think that something's gone on here and you're dealing with a person like this who is saying something like it takes two to tango, but they're misapplying it in order to not do their introspective work, in order to not take accountability and not to apologize, or not to apologize in the proper way, which is to say, this is what I did that is wrong, and it is wrong. This is what I should have done. I'm sorry. Going forward, here's my plan, focused on my own behavior, about how my contribution to a messed up situation is being dealt with behind the scenes on my end. That's the thing that's like not happening here. So okay, so Spirit's wanting me to kind of like dive into this. So Spirit is saying that every group, like a friend group, a family group, can actually be broken down into one-to-one relationships. That's how the energy flows a lot in a group. They are kind of showing me like a third party situation. This doesn't have to involve cheating, although for a lot of you, I think it does, or it involves, even if it's not a romantic situation, it involves some kind of platonic version of that. It involves betrayal. It involves like backstabbing. And the reason it involves backstabbing is because, like Spirit's trying to emphasize here, in a third party dynamic, there can be pockets in that, right? Where not everything is being expressed. There can be secrets. There can be covert contracts. And well, we're just not going to say this, or because every third party situation, or again, a group larger than 3 people, breaks down into relationships between 2 people, and every person has a relationship with every other person in the group, right? So that creates these little pockets for secrets, and that needs to be acknowledged here. Now, I'm going back to the phrase it takes 2 to tango, because I feel like this has been misapplied by someone who did the cheating, by someone who did the betraying, and they're using that again to deflect, and they're using that as an excuse. And they're doing that because they're focusing on someone else's 2-person dynamic, or they're focusing on their own. Again, like if they, in order to wrongly assign blame to a person, and it's kind of in this like blanket way, in this like blank check kind of way, meaning we're not going to dig down into the nuance of who said what and when and where and why, because digging down into the details in the nuance reveals the wrongness of their actions, which they don't want to take responsibility for. So instead, they do this faux introspection thing where they say, well, it takes 2 to tango. Because I feel like right now they're kind of in the hot seat, because right now the step in the dance and the tango, because again, a tango, even that word tango, it's like, well, it takes 2 to tango, and it's like just a blanket term, but a tango has multiple steps in it, you know, with multiple dynamics where you might be dipping your partner or they're dipping you. Like, what is the specific step that you're on? The specific step in the dance is you did something wrong. Somebody here did something wrong, and they are not owning up to it. They're refusing to have the conversation, the detailed, nuanced, nitty gritty conversation, because those things do matter. The context here does matter. Now, getting into the it takes 2 to tango though, Spirit's saying it takes 2 to have a relationship here. So if you've got a correct relationship, meaning this is not an affair, this is not secretive, this is like above board, and one person is engaged with it that way because their relationship is legitimate, you know, like it's out in the light of day for these 2 people to have a relationship. It's not sneaky or weird or behind the scenes. One person's engaging in the relationship that way, and another person has gone behind their back, is not airing their grievances like with this person directly, or they're not being healthy in that, or they're having an affair. That's kind of what it feels like. They're having an affair. They're cheating, which means they're tangoing with someone else. But that person is telling their affair partner or whoever, like even their friend, because I feel like something here has like been called out. So they could even be telling a friend group like, well, yeah, that relationship, meaning the healthy relationship that they were in and should have been a meaningful part of, well, that fell apart because, you know, it takes 2 to tango. So even though it may have come out that that person did something wrong and they're like, well, it takes two to tango. And they use that as this mystique, again, as like a blanket. And it's meant to shut people down. Like, well, you don't know everything, and, but it's wrong. It's misapplied. And it's just this person being selfish and deflecting and actually not tangoing in their relationship because it takes two to tango. And Spirit's saying this is the part of that phrase, it takes two to tango, that gets lost because we often mean that it takes two people to do a bad thing. It takes two people to make a relationship work is what Spirit is saying. And somebody just didn't show up. Somebody didn't do their part of the dance. And the dance has different steps. And sometimes in a relationship, you're on top of the world, right? Everything's going really well. You're going on vacation. Things are moving. Everybody wants to be in that part of the dance. But sometimes you stumble and you fall and you've got to correct your balance between the two of you. And that's where it takes a really skillful partner. And that's when somebody dips out here, or that's when somebody wants to check out here. And then they want to be like, well, it takes two to tango. You didn't tango, sir or madam. Not with your partner. You stopped tangoing. It takes two to tango over here. And then you went and you tangoed with somebody else. That's the part of it where it's like, well, it takes two people to do a bad thing. Those two people did a bad thing. And that can be true. And still this person's relationship partner was not a perfect partner. But they didn't do anything worth being cheated on. Nobody deserves to be cheated on. That's not a healthy relationship skill. When you're having problems in your relationship, you go to therapy. You talk about it. You don't go sleep with somebody else, or you don't betray them behind their back. That's not a healthy relationship skill. You didn't engage. I don't know if this is you or this is somebody that you're dealing with, but this is like, I'm seeing like somebody trying to look around the corner with a mirror. I've been seeing that image lately, but there's like a blind spot or something, and it's like we've got to look directly at this. So yeah, a relationship wasn't perfect, but somebody did not show up. They maybe, because this is another aspect to this, because every group or friendship or whatever can be broken down into two people. Again, it creates these pockets. This is a person who misuses the pockets. Okay. Cause you can use the pockets correctly, meaning, if you are having problems in your relationship and you're able to talk with like a good friend about it and they give you a piece of information that clicks something in and then you go apply it and it works and it's healthy and it helps to kind of, help, and it helps in some way, or like a therapist or something, right? But I don't think a therapist would be part of a friend group. So it kind of falls through with the metaphor, right? That's a healthy way of using the pocket. Somebody here does not use the pocket in a healthy way. All of this is facade management, and they take advantage of the fact that they can just say, well, not everybody knows what went on in my relationship, and they don't, but they're like portraying this partner as deserving, having been deserving of, well, that's why I cheated. You should never cheat in a relationship. If you're done with a relationship, end the relationship and then start another relationship. That's how that goes. If there's nothing going on, so why didn't it occur that way? And it's somebody here is like just trying to avoid that is what it feels like. Oh, well, life is complicated, and it is, but it's like, there's still, this is the part though. We all do our introspective work. You know that there's a better way that you could have done it. So why are you not having that conversation with somebody? Because it feels owed. It feels owed to somebody here. Even if you were going through a hard time, somebody here is just deflecting the conversation. And it's because there is something deeper that they know that they're responsible for. They don't want to be seen in that aspect. I do think there's a social quality here as well, because again, we're talking about like a third party dynamic, which again, I think there is cheating here or some kind of betrayal. But it feels also that there's maybe a larger group. This person doesn't want to be seen in that aspect because socially they will be held accountable. And everybody in that group will update their mind and their internal image of that person, oh, that's a person who cheats, or that's a person who lies and tries to get away with it and has dragged that out for an extended period of time. It's something I need to be aware of, and that this person doesn't want that to happen because I just heard social capital. They don't want to lose some kind of social capital here, and they are desperately clinging to their mask of like, well, I'm a good person or whatever. But the only way they can do that is by like being vague and being like saying these, it does feel like weaponized therapy speak, like saying these things that you hear people who are trying to work through their issues, like in therapy or something. Those are things that people would say, well, it takes two to tango, because it does. But why weren't you tangoing? Why didn't you go to therapy? Like, why weren't you having the hard conversations? Why weren't you sweating it out? And it's because there was some kind of feeling of inadequacy. It's like I think that they knew that there was something here that they needed to take, but even before the cheating, it feels like there was something here that maybe they needed to take responsibility for, like with their partner, or work through. And that could have been like an insecurity, some kind of like internal stance of like, hey, I really need help, dealing with this. I feel like shit every day. But also it feels like this person maybe wants to blame their partner for that. It's like, well, I feel like shit every single day because, I feel insecure. I don't feel as attractive as you, or I don't feel as attractive as other people around, or I'm worried about my career prospects. And that makes me feel on shaky ground in this relationship. That would be them doing their actual introspective work and pulling in their partner. That's tangoing with your partner, but it's like they didn't want to do that. So instead they cheated, or like they did something to cause drama. Yeah, that's what I'm getting. I feel like somebody here, like they did something intentionally to cause drama. And I'm seeing I'm seeing the scene in Aladdin where, I think it was like Jafar or something, like throws that like little smoke bomb and then like disappears. It's like, that's the drama. They like throw the smoke bomb and then they disappear so that people can't really see them clearly. And they disappear entirely. It's a power move is what it is. It's a control tactic in order to, maintain their narrative and to maintain their facade. But I feel this person then projects outward onto their partner. That's that, well, it takes two to tango thing of, which suggests that their partner didn't show up. But I feel like their partner was engaged, or their friend, whoever this is, was definitely willing to like sit down, have the hard conversation. But they're making it seem like they weren't, because regardless of what went on here, I don't think there are definitely deal breakers in relationships. Cheating is a deal breaker for a lot of people in a relationship. It is an immense betrayal. And it's not the same thing as somebody, because I feel like there's something here where it's like, well, they were withholding their emotions. Well, is this person emotionally abusive? Because it sort of sounds like it. It sort of sounds like they are, dramatic in order to, again, hide that. They use that. They leverage that intense energy as a shield, as their sword and shield, as a tactic, in lieu of developing healthy coping skills, because that would require them being vulnerable and being open. So instead they accuse their partner, but it does feel something like that. Like they want to say something like, well, I didn't get what I needed from them emotionally. But this partner would be like, what? Like if they could well be emotionally guarded, in the sense that they kind of, on some level, they don't have to know this consciously, they could be gray rocking on some level, where they kind of realize this partner starts a drama to hurt them and to get some kind of emotional reaction. And they're like, yeah. And then they could be calling that like the silent treatment or something. Really, they're traumatizing this person. And this person is just doing the best that they can to protect themselves from whatever's going on here. And I don't even really think this partner knows what's going on. This is the person that would have to, that would find the YouTube channels and be like, oh, I think, of like narcissistic abuse or something. And I'm not saying this person's a narcissist, but they would be like, oh my gosh, that's what I experienced, and I was so confused the whole time. And they kept telling me that I wasn't doing enough. This person furthers the abuse. And it's especially disgusting because their partner was the original victim anyways, and so yeah, this is horseshit is what I want to say. It's absolute horseshit. And this person knows it. This person knows it. They know that they're scared of being found out on a social level and being accused or held accountable. But that is the one thing that they need to do, is they need to admit that there's a problem. And I think that they would be surprised if they're like, yeah, I really did that person dirty. I really, I was having, like, even if I was having a problem with their emotions, like I should have initiated something. What's wrong with me? I can't get off the couch to call and make a therapy appointment so that we can figure out our issues. Why did I just check out? It's because this is about power. This was about a power game. This wasn't about healing for this person. This was about some like saving face and like putting this person on the back foot, or, and this is an impulse in this person that they don't want to admit or they don't want to look at. There's some kind of, I just heard social incongruency or emotional incongruency within this person. They don't want to admit that. So they say things like, it takes two to tango, because it's vague. It sounds like psychology speak. It sounds like they're doing the work, but really that's just a deflection. And people do sense that. And so for some of you, I think that you even could be a friend or like a part of this social group. Your social group has like fallen apart because of some kind of, relationship between these two, and you don't know what's going on. But I'd be very wary of someone who just gives you a blanket, like, well, it takes two to tango. And that person did something redonkulous. That person betrayed that person. They don't want to be, what's crazy is I feel like they're actually weirdly, accountable to this social group. because it's like they're acting like there's some kind of privacy here with this social group of like, well, this is private between us. But actually, I think this group's friendship all fell apart, or like this is a family or something, it all fell apart. So no, you do owe this group an explanation as to why they don't have the strong friendships that they should have in their life right now. Why somebody's not around anymore. No, karmically, that's owed. They owe them an accountability. It's more than an explanation. They owe them a change in their behavior. They owe them repairing their relationships, because it's like there's one kind of stank apple is what I'm getting. And they have ruined their relationships with the group, or they've ruined a group entirely. And the group can't get anywhere with it because this person's just refusing to own up. And they're refusing to show up because it takes two to tango. So, and that's why that person's like off with somebody that maybe that they cheated with, or and that person is the problem too, like needs to be ousted. And I also think that whoever this person cheated with or like betrayed with, that may or may not be part of this group or this friendship. This is the person that's like, well, I was helping. They were having relationship problems and I was helping, I was just a shoulder to cry on. And, everybody's got problems, and trust me, you don't know what was going on. Like everybody's got problems. And that's why I feel comfortable, behaving the way I did, because again, that they're the same, these two people, because that person who did the cheating, that's what they're saying is, well, these people have problems. And I was like a therapist in the situation, and there's like patient client privilege, even though this person's not a therapist. And also this is not helping what's going on. This is debauchery. That's dressed up. This is why this is so offensive to people, is because it's dressed up as helping. And this is why people are like, well, can you really be friends with the opposite sex? I mean, I don't know. Can you really trust your friends? This isn't friendship. This is somebody who misuses friendship, because these two are gross and they want to run away from their problems. But yeah, that person is the problem. The person who's cheating, they weren't helping in the situation. At what point were your genitals involved? When did your genitals enter the chat? Were you helping then? These people need assistance. I'm kind of getting that. I think these two people who did that, I think that there is some kind of mental health issue here. And I mean this in all seriousness. I think there's serious mental health issues. And what I mean by that is that these two, whoever did the cheating or the betraying or the backstabbing, whatever the issue is here, it's not something that they can figure out on their own. They're too slippery of a fish. At the very least, they need somebody who's like trained in mental health that can hold their feet to the fire and say, we both know that's a lie. So why don't you try rephrasing that again, but try honesty this time. They need that kind of person in their life. Maybe that's a therapist. Maybe, therapists are they got to get to know you and build rapport and everything. So, and as soon as they do that to somebody like this person probably leaves, so it might take like a strong friend or like an aunt or somebody that just is kind of no nonsense in their energy to be like, don't piss on my leg and tell me it's raining. Because that's what these people do. They just consistently treat everyone like they're stupid, and they pee on people's legs and they tell them that it's raining. They want to control the narrative. These are actually very controlling people. Both of these people, I'm saying both, that are in this affair or whatever they did the backstabbing, because they have to be controlling, because they have to manage their facade, because they refuse to actually do the work to be a genuinely good person from sun up to sundown, from start to finish. They refuse to learn how to tango, meaning they refuse to learn how to have a relationship in the good times and in the bad times too. Because there's going to be bad times. But these people, or somebody here, strikes me as a person where they'll hit a bad time and they don't know that like trouble doesn't last always and this too shall pass kind of a thing. They don't understand that like you go through ups and downs, like you go through cycles. You have to learn how to be graceful and how to show up and how to take your licks in life and do it respectfully and how to maintain like yourself internally. There's like an internal regulation problem. That's what I'm getting. I think these people actually do need, I just heard lead me to the rock that is higher than I, somebody that can help with their like regulation. DBT, dialectical behavioral therapy, I feel like would be great here. Honoring others. Like they have to learn how that honoring others and respecting others is honoring themselves. But I also feel like whatever their attempts were to save face, like in whatever group this is, I still feel like their relationships have suffered. Like I still feel like people are distant to them, like it's definitely not the same. Like their relationships are definitely not the same. And it's because people do kind of get it, even if they're not admitting to it, but people have hunches, people kind of know. And I think it has to do with this other partner as well, because I think this other partner that showed up is a good person. Like is a really good person. And I think that there's some like slander or something of this person. There's a suggestion that this really good person, who of course is not a perfect person, but they're a really good person. And people know that. And they don't think that this person should get body slammed for being an imperfect but really good person and really well-meaning too, really well-intentioned too. For these people to suggest like, oh, well, you don't know who that person really is. Whatever is going on here, this person is not like a sneaky slut, like this other partner that got like maligned in this. They're not. And people know that about this person too. So if you are that partner where you're like, I tried to show up to my relationship and I'm being told that, these two were helping each other out by sleeping together, there's no accountability. There's no accountability. This is bad behavior and they know it. They know it, which is why you'll never get specifics out of these people. They use that like, oh, well, it takes two to tango. It's a way of cutting off the conversation, actually. It's a way of deflecting, cutting off the conversation. It seems introspective. These people are just gifted. I'm hearing they're gifted at staying in the shallow end, at like just dipping their toe in, but at making it seem like they are like interested in mental health or healing or well-being or something. And they're not, because this debaucherous, I just keep hearing like something about this is just like, they're defending a debaucherous like stance here instead of, well, let's actually get into the nitty gritty of it, because they owe quite a few people maybe an apology here, or they definitely owe somebody here an apology. Like I'm literally seeing whoever that person is like just crying and on their knees, like, please take me back, or like, I'm sorry, because it's not that, that they checked out of a relationship here. They thought the answer was outside the relationship is like, and not necessarily because they wanted to be with that person, because it was a power move against the person that they were in a relationship with. That's what they thought. It was a power move. They didn't stick in the relationship, because again, they might have felt like, well, I don't understand your emotions or something like, and the partner's not doing that on purpose. The partner has their own psychology, but you stick in there together and you hold each other's hands and you love each other and you honor each other and you respect each other. You keep that space safe. That is a space where you can actually work through your relationship problems. And somebody went and made the relationship dynamic unsafe. Or they did just want something. And whatever it is that they wanted was devil energy. It was like just for the moment. Like they don't want a relationship with this person. They maybe wanted to sleep with this person. Or if this person had money or something, they just want to be with that person because they've got money. So And those are just a couple of examples, because for some of you, I think this is a platonic situation where it's not cheating, but it is some kind of like betrayal. But anyways, I'm going to leave that there. If that resonates with you, please like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Bye.